Welcome to Made in Science, the official podcast of the University of Stuttgart. My name is Wolfgang Holtkamp. I am Senior Advisor on International Affairs and your host for today. In this episode, we welcome Professor Maike Thielebein. She first graduated from the University of Stuttgart with a diploma in engineering cybernetics. Consequently, she acquired her doctoral degree in strategic management at the Institute of Business Administration, also at the University of Stuttgart. After a short period away from our university, she came back in 2009 and became the Director of Diversity Studies in Engineering. Since 2011, she has also been the head of the Center for Management Research of the German Institutes of Textile and Fiber Research in Denkendorf. Professor Thielebein's mission is not only to explore the topic of diversity theoretically, but to work on implementing it in our everyday lives. Today, we are excited to talk to her about the importance of diversity, the challenges that come with it, and her personal life as a mother of two. Maike, you come from northern Germany a couple of years ago to Stuttgart, to southern Germany. If we would have met in northern Germany, how would we greet each other?
Well, maybe we would say moin or just hello.
And of course here, this is a very different greeting that we have. Language has a lot to offer all the time. Experiences are also everywhere when one makes a change in the regions, even within Germany. Is there anything in your mind that you could tell when you came here, what you first thought that is really different?
Well, it seems a bit like a cliche, but one of the first impressions really I got in Stuttgart, which I didn't know before, it was just a town that we passed by when we were going to the skiing hills of the Alps in the winter. And now I moved to Stuttgart for my study program. And the first flat that I was living in as a subcontractor with an old Swabian man, it was up high in I think in the 5th level of that huge building. And I looked through the window down in the yard. And in the yard, I saw a man with a red broom chasing one single leaf over that yard. And that is a lasting impression, a first impression that I got in Stuttgart. And I'm very sorry, it is a cliche, but for me, it was right.
In both of your positions, at our university as department head and as the head of the Center of Management Research at the Institutes of Textile and Fiber Research, you deal with diversity. Can you tell us about what exactly you do in both roles?
Oh, thank you for this question. Yes, I love to tell you. At the university institutes, our focus is on how diversity in thinking, diversity in experience, diversity in training, diversity in functions plays a part in innovation. So how does diversity add to innovation is the focus question at the University Institute. And there we look at what we call cognitive diversity, rather than what is called demographic diversity. So all the things that are protected by law against discrimination, of course, they are very important. And of course, they can add to innovation. Our view is more on the functional diversity, on professional diversity, and how this adds to innovation. And here we look at, for instance, new product development teams and how dynamics of diversity unfold in the process of innovation. Like first, when you come together with different ideas, with different perspectives on a problem, then you might experience difficulties talking to others who have other methods, other important points that they look at. So at first, diversity might be a hindrance to the success of a process. But then after a time where you have to come to terms with each other, then diversity can really pay off because you can collect different ideas. You can have different views on problems.
And do you find this happening at both positions? Is it at the university something different from your experience so far than in Denkendorf?
Well, in Denkendorf, the Center of Management Research has a focus on the digital transformation of the textile industry. And there, one part of our activities is how to serve the diversity of people and their morphologies with garments or with medical textiles. So in Denkendorf, we more use innovations, technical innovations, new technologies in order to address diversity in customers or in needs for specific garments, for specific medical textiles, for instance. So while at the University Institute, we look at how to make innovation from diversity. In Denkendorf, at the Center of Management Research, we add technology to serve diversity.
Could we say that both roles actually fit you very well? I know that in Denkendorf, in one of your research projects, you measure the human body and try to find the various ways that we fit into a T-shirt, or the T-shirt fits us rather, and other garments, of course, as well. So, how does the combination of these two that you just described, these two roles, how does it fit for you?
Well, it addresses a broad spectrum of different ideas and different concepts, I think. And this fits very well to me, although it doesn't seem natural, of course, that an Institute for Diversity Studies in Engineering that is usually staffed with people from sociology or business administration or these more social science programs is staffed with someone coming from a study program called Engineering Cybernetics. But this is a perfect bridge, I guess, to what we are doing in Denkendorf at the Center of Management Research, because there we care for the digitalization of the textile industry. And so I hope that I fit these two roles well.
When you say cybernetics, that was a very influential factor, I guess, for you to come from northern Germany to southern Germany, because the University of Stuttgart had a special offer for you.
Yes, and I'm still fascinated about that study program, and I'm very proud that nowadays I can add to that study program because I'm part of that study program right now. Yes, that's right. I came to Stuttgart in order to study this fascinating study program, Engineering Cybernetics. And this was something that was recommended to me. I had never heard about that because I come from Osnabrück, a town that is 500 kilometers away from Stuttgart. So, not knowing exactly what I wanted to study because my interests were very broad, I went to the study consultancy of the job center. And there they recommended this study program to me. And I was fascinating from the beginning. And then I enrolled for that study program.
And I think you never regretted any of this. At the same time, there must have been many challenges along the way, not only when you began your studies, but also bringing it back to the topic of diversity. In the positions that you are in the daily working experience that you have, what are some of the main challenges when you implement diversity? And what are some of the challenges in general, perhaps, for everyday lives and the topic of diversity?
Well, diversity is often seen focused on gender diversity. This is one part that often comes to my mind when I see people react on Like when I tell them I'm head of the Institute of Diversity Studies in Engineering, they say, you care about the career of women. And I say, well, this is maybe one point that I'm looking at, but I look at how can diversity in thinking add to innovation. And so there's a very small idea or a very, very confined perception of diversity in the broad public sometimes. And even in firms, many firms look at diversity management as being gender diversity driven or maybe demographic diversity driven. And this is due to, of course, their challenges that they face. The actual benefit of diversity, however, of course, it needs the discriminating practices to be overcome, but diversity can be a real resource. And this is how I want people to look at diversity.
Why do you think that people struggle with this particular term sometimes, as you also said, the different understandings of diversity?
I think that in the media and in the legislation, these aspects, of course, dominate the discussion. And being aware of there's legislation about the percentage of women, for instance, in boards and things like that, this dominates the public discussion of the broad public. And still, some firms have made their diversity campaigns so that they have a long-time goal showing that diversity should be seen as a resource. And they have unintended bias trainings, for instance, and all things that help that people look at each other in a different way.
In your position, you would also try to raise the awareness for that other kind of diversity, as you said, bringing it into processes, implementing it into new structures as well. What does that mean for the mind of the people to sort of help them to be ready for that kind of change and interaction, and perhaps offering them new ways to connect?
Well, I think we all have seen that the complex problems of nowadays challenges can be solved only if we put together different methods, different perspectives, different knowledge domains. There's no problem of complex nature that can be solved by one person and their knowledge only. So I guess people are more and more aware of this fact. And this brings our topic more to the public and to public awareness, I hope.
You mentioned earlier cybernetics. Contemporary cybernetics varies widely in scope and focus, with cyberneticians variously adopting and also combining technical, scientific, philosophical approaches. In your work, Maike, which of these dominate, actually? Is there one that you would highlight in particular?
Well, of course, we make use of the technical view of cybernetics, as there are feedback structures and control loops everywhere in a firm. If you look at production processes, if you look at strategy processes, everywhere you find this cybernetic view of you have to plan something, you have to analyze, you have to find your different choices, you have to choose, and then you have to feed back the results as an information in order to know whether to start this again or not, whether you have reached your goals. And this kind of control loop you find in every context within a firm. So this is something that we draw up on and we use a lot. The other thing is the broader systems view that is applied to a wide range of different contexts and daily life is something that is really useful. So I also like the broader systems approach to and this is what I teach also, systems thinking, I think, is a very useful thing for everyone to know and to see how different actors that are deciding at the same time shape their environments mutually, and how system dynamics unfold in such situations.
We already said that you came to Stuttgart because the university had at a very early stage already implemented, or rather offered, studies in cybernetics. Now the question would, however, be why you decided to go for that subject at all.
Oh, I was interested in a broad spectrum of different topics when I was at school. I chose German and mathematics as my special topics in the last 3 years of school, and I was interested in basically everything. They had to stop me from choosing more courses than I was allowed to. So I was looking for something that was really exciting and brought together many of the things that I was interested in. And I found from the description, of course, there was no internet at that time. You could only look it up in a very, very thick book that was available at that time, listing every single study program in Germany. You can't imagine this for today because we have about 20,000 study programs, I think. And in 1986, it fitted into one book. And this was the study program I chose because this really fascinated me.
In your studies, here at the university, you were at the time the only female student among the male students. How did that work out for you?
Well, yes, that's true. I was the 2% female students at that time. And that, on the one hand, felt funny because I always felt like an alien. I was something special. I was looked at. And on the other hand, it was just natural. So because I didn't saw myself, I just felt part of everyone else and of the study program. And there are still very good friends I have from the beginning of my study program.
If you look at it from today's point of view, the number of female students in engineering is still here at the university, but in Germany also lower than the male students. So what do you think? What could be done differently to open this up to female students as well, this area and related areas?
Well, this, I would say, is a multi-scaled problem. There are different drivers on different levers that help or that add to this phenomenon. First, of course, it's a question of personal interests, but you can either raise these interests or you can put them down or discourage these technical interests of girls. And this has to start very early, I guess. Second is that the system surrounding the individuals. If there's a system that rather encourages and finds it normal that females go to engineering study programs or become technical staff, then of course no one has to argue for that and no one has to justify their decisions, and anything that is easier is more likely to be done. So if it's hard and you have to argue for your choice, then maybe you are discouraged.
You already said that you had a number of interests and that you did some very thorough research to find out that cybernetics is offered in Stuttgart. After you studied that one, however, you transitioned over to the Institute of Business Administration. How did that happen?
Well, like so many things, just by chance. I had specialized in biotechnology in my study program of engineering cybernetics. But at that time, when I was looking for a topic for a diploma thesis, biotechnology was not recognized very well in Germany, and all firms that had to do with biotechnology went to look for some other country to settle in. So I was looking for a diploma thesis, and I stumbled over an offer for a diploma thesis at the Institute for Business Administration, looking for someone to program an object-oriented, knowledge-based system. And I thought, well, I know how to do that. This sounds really cool. I want to go and ask what the specifics of the systems are and what kind of diploma thesis this is. And then I was fascinated by this task, and I asked my officer of the program, of the study program, if I was allowed to do so, and he allowed me to do so, and this is how I got stuck in the business administration department.
With those two experiences, you are also an expert now working on various advisory boards of organizations. I can imagine that bringing your background from the technical part, but also from the business part to these tables is very useful. How do you experience that? And can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I think that with these two different disciplinary perspectives that I have gone through, I am able to understand either of the two. And this is a combination that is often used in reality. So I feel prepared to talk to both engineers and people from business administration and to know their needs and their perspectives.
And from the various advisory boards, is there one that in particular you like to work with?
Well, one of the advisory boards is, or the juries that I'm in is the jury of the Innovation Award of the state of Baden-Württemberg, the Rudolf Eberle Prize. And here, small and medium-sized enterprises are awarded for their innovations. And it's very, very interesting to see what innovation is being performed in even small and medium-sized enterprises. And as the textile industry also is made of small and medium-sized enterprises at large, this is very interesting for me to see.
So really, Baden-Württemberg has the motto to be also the state of the tinkerers and the hobbyists, the ones who sort of try to find the best solution and hopefully give the best answers to whatever problem comes up as well by testing. The Denkendorf experience, can you bring that to the university at all? Or does it work in that direction as also, or also from only from the university to Denkendorf?
No, vice versa is also a path, for instance, in teaching. All the examples that we show to the students in the lectures are from the textile industry. And this way, I also hope to excite them for the textile industry, which is not an outdated and uninteresting industry as it is often perceived in the public. But it's a high-tech industry, and we are able to produce lot size 1 made-to-measure garments, for instance. You can't have a car that is fitted to your garage, but you can have a garment that is fitted to your body.
And you have a vision for that, I think, that you expressed in with your work in Denkendorf as well. Can you tell us about that vision?
Well, we want to equip people with garments or medical textiles according to their needs. And we need digitalization to do this at the price of mass products. And I hope that also new business models will be applied soon that implement what we are developing and have been developing over the past 15 years together with industry partners with their new technologies. And I hope that this will be seen in new business models really soon.
At the Center for Management Research, you work on the digital textile micro factory. that is a term that asks for more explanation.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Microfactories are digitally backed development and production processes. So they can be confined in a small room, and they have everything that you need in order to develop and produce, in our case, in the textile microfactory, a garment or a textile item. So, for instance, we have a process that we have shown and demonstrated in the past years together with our industry partners in the leading textile fairs, where we can really, beginning from a body scanner, through a simulation system, through a digital printer and a cutter and a sewing machine, we can produce a made-to-measure garment for any body shape. And this is something that also can be done with other textile technologies at the center. For instance, we have something that we call scan to knit. So from the scan of your hand or your foot, you can have knitted a made-to-measure compression textile. And this is important for instance, burn garments. We had a project on burn garments where we used this technology to make made-to-measure burn garments for people who had severe injuries from burning.
Given this background of so many experiences and projects and really lots of dedication to the various aspects of it all, how do you manage to balance actually the professional life with your private life?
Well, nowadays it's quite easy. I always used to say, this is my life 2.0, because my children are grown up and have their own professional lives. But actually, when I was studying and when I was having the kids, there were great challenges. And also when I was doing my doctoral dissertation, of course, because at that time it was completely unusual. And of course, the more at the technical university to have children when you are a student. So there were no baby seats in the Mensa, or there were no childcare facilities and things like that. So I was not only the only female student in that year in engineering cybernetics, but I was also then a couple of years after the only pregnant student and student with a baby. And well, this led to taking me 17 semesters of studying. And some would say, well, this is devastating. You cannot become a professor with that history because it's much too long and it's bad for your CV and things like that. And still I managed, and I'm very grateful to my boss and my supervisor of my doctoral thesis that he allowed me to do research as if it was a 9-to-5 job. And that was unusual at that time too, because you're supposed to give everything you can and dedicate your complete time when you're a doctoral student. And this was something that I couldn't do, having 2 small children. And well, this was a surrounding that let me do this dissertation and be a researcher and at the same time manage my family.
And as you just said, the times, they are changing. Looking ahead a little bit, or just doing some guessing here, how will the topic of diversity be dealt with in the next years? Will it still be an issue where in the next decade and in the decade after that, those born today, will they grow up with diversity? Will they also understand it very differently from the generation before and that generation before?
This is something that I really hope, because I mean, everyone has understood that diversity in terms of biodiversity is something important. And this was something that really intrigued me during my doctoral dissertation. This is how I discovered the topic of diversity as being an innovation driver. And I thought, well, if it is true for biological systems, it must be true for social systems too. This is actually the way I came to this topic. And I hope that future generations will see that diversity is important in any systems to make the systems thrive and to make the systems be innovative and to empower them to foster and to co-evolve with their environments.
And how does that relate to your current and perhaps even next research? Is there an ultimate goal that you could name when it comes to your research, perhaps also against the background that you just described, to sort of bring that into your scientific work?
Well, like in everyday life, I think goals evolve too. But the goal is, of course, to make use of diversity in any situation. I can give an example. We've just issued a project application for looking at the resilience of textile supply chains. And of course, diversity of firms in this case is an important driver for resilience. So having seen under the COVID pandemic that the global supply chains are very vulnerable, we are looking on possibilities to make these systems less vulnerable, to look at nearshoring possibilities, to look at new ways of installing the value chains that you need in order to get the final products.
And now let's approach our famous Moment 7. Please answer the following questions that we have collected for you as shortly as possible. Moment 1. Spätzle or Maultaschen?
Maultaschen.
Moment 2. One thing you could change about the world.
Waste.
Moment 3. Do you have a book recommendation for us?
Yes, but it's a German book. Is it okay? David Schalko, Bad Regina. It's really crazy.
Moment 4. The best advice you have ever received.
I always need new advices, I guess.
Moment 5. Your favorite place on campus.
My office.
Moment 6. If I could start all over again, I would do the following differently.
I don't think that I regret anything.
And moment 7. Please complete the following sentence. The best thing about Stuttgart is...
The best thing about Stuttgart is its abundance in cultural offers, its cultural diversity. I really love that.
Thank you for that one, Maike. It has been really a great and very engaging talk. We are looking forward to staying in touch with you and wish you all the best of luck with everything you do in setting up diversity, especially when it's made in science. Auf Wiedersehen.
As we say in the North, tschüss.